Hey everybody, so today I thought we could color this cute Ellie's birthday image by Saturated Canary. Isn't she a doll? And she comes unmounted, and it's on this blue rubber, and then you can mount her on whatever you want. I've already mounted mine on Easy Mount, and I have stamped her with Memento Tuxedo Black ink on Nina 80-pound Solar White cardstock. So let's get started. Okay, so when I start to make a card, I pick the paper first. So for this card, I've picked For the Record 2 by Echo Park, and this is from the Tailored collection. And I picked this piece not because I may be going to use it, but because it's got all of the colors in the collection on this one border piece. So I take it with me when I'm going to color my girl, and then I pick colors off of this, and I'll show you a little bit more about that here in just a bit. Alright, so let's get started, and I'm going to start with her face, and for that I'm going to use E21, E00, E000, and for the cheeks I'm going to use R20 and R30, and then for today I'm going to add some shadows to her skin with BV31. So I'm going to start with E21, and I'm going to add my shadows first. I'm going to start down here on her hand, and I'm going to lay down some color where I want it to be darkest. So for me it's going to be underneath of her sleeve, the bottom of her hand, maybe right here where her little finger comes around. This side I'm going to get underneath of her sleeve, down the back of her hand, maybe the bottom side of this hand and this little finger here, the bottom side. And then I'm going to go to E00, and I start by brushing my color over the top of the color I just laid down. And because this is such a small area, I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. Then I'm going to move up here to her face, and I'm going to do her neck first. And so I'm going to give her neck on this side a little bit of shadow, and where her chin is. And again, I'm going to grab E00, and I'm just going to fill that completely in because there's not much space there. And then I'll go up to her face, and for that I'm going to again start with E21, and I'm going to lay down where I want it to be the darkest. So I'm going to go, and her hair is kind of sketchy up here, but I'm not going to worry about that because she's going to have a brown hair, so if I color in some spots where I shouldn't, that's going to be fine. And then I'm going to go right down the side of this bang, right down to the bottom of her chin here, and go completely around her face. And this side over here looks like the hair kind of touches where the pupil is, so I'm not going to color clear up the side of that side. And then I think I'll add a few shadows here right behind where these bangs are. And then I'm going to go ahead, she's got a little bit, it looks like her ear is kind of poking out over here, so I'm going to go ahead and go down the side of that, maybe a little bit on this ear. And then for her nose, I'm going to give her a nose by going and adding just a little bit of definition right there. Then I'm going to grab E00, and I'm going to add some more color here. So I'm going to brush over the top of the line I just laid down, get some of these bangs, and again I don't care if I color over the top of the bang because it's going to be brown, so I'm going to color right over that. Go around her chin, this ear, and get this shadow. And then for her nose, I'm going to go ahead and go right up the inside. Like that. And then I'm going to grab E000, and I'm just going to go all the way across, filling that all the way in. And then I'm going to go with my cheek color, which is R20. And I'm going to start my cheek over here, and I'm going to bring it out underneath of her eye. And same for this side. And then I'm going to grab R30, and I'm just going to lightly do just the ends of that color, just to feather it out. Then I'm going to go back with my E21, and I'm just going to darken up right here along the edge and put my shadows back in a little bit more. Maybe come out a little bit on her cheek. And same for this side. I'm going to go down this little bang right here. And then on this cheek, I'm just going to pull out just a little bit. And I'm going to redefine her nose as long as I have the E21 out. So go ahead and add a little bit of color there. And then we're going to grab E00. And we're going to soften that line just a little bit. Pull out here onto her cheek. And come down on her bangs. And then she's got these little definitions on her nose. I want to go up those again. Maybe go underneath of her chin just a little bit more. And then I'm going to take E000 and just go over her entire face. And then I'm going to take my BV31 and I'm going to add some shadows. So I want her face to look more like it's got a shadow rounding around the outside. So I'm going to go right up along the side of her face and down part of her cheek. And then I'm going to say this little streak of hair is casting a shadow, and it's going right down along her cheek. And then her chin is going to cast a little bit of a shadow there. So I'm going to add a little bit in there for that. Okay, so we're going to color her hair, and for her hair I've picked E29, E35, E53, and E50, and I picked this color because it's sort of like my hair color, and the whole idea of doing this kit today was as a birthday post for my birthday on the store blog. So we're going to go with E29 first, and we're going to brush where we want to be the darkest. So again, I want it to be dark underneath this little hat. I'm just going to brush in a few little streaks. Try not to color the hat. And then I'm going to get right here where it comes up above her ear. And she's got this little streak that kind of streaks down here on her face. I'm just going to go ahead and color that little section in. And then she's got these great little ponytail things. So I'm going to put a little bit in there. And then for this side, same thing. I'm going to brush away from that hat. And I'm going with the flow of the hair. And we'll get right down here where it's touching her ear. And she's got this great little streak that's coming down on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and feather in a little bit on that. And then our little ponytails again. Give those a couple of little darker strands. And then I'm going to grab E35. And I'm going to go a little bit over the top of my E29 and add in my E35. Turn it a little bit here so I can do this side. And you can brush up as far as you would like. Get this little ponytail. And she's got another little strand right here. I think I'll color this color. And then I'm going to grab E53. And again, you're going to lay down just right on top of the E35 a little bit. Add just a little bit more color in there. And we'll go get this side. And we'll go up from down here. These ponytails just a little bit. And then we'll do E50 to fill that in. So if you have any spaces you want to color in, you go ahead and just fill that all the way. end of those ponytails. And then I go back with my darkest color and add a few more highlights. So I'm going to take E29 and just using the very tip of my pen, I'm just going to pull down a few streaks. And I don't care that it goes past where it went last time. This little hair right here. And same for the ponytails, give those a little bit more dark in there. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, turn it just a little bit more. And you just want to use just the tip of your pen. Add some little streaks in there. And let's go up from this ponytail. Get the end of this one just a little bit more. Okay, and then I think I'll add a little bit of E35 too. So again, I'm just using the very tip of my pen and I'm pulling up, just adding a few little hair strands in there. Okay, so for her eyes, before we go to the eyes, see how her hair turned out? It turned out pretty good. I like how you know how streaky it was when we stamped it? Now it looks perfectly fine now that we got it all colored. So for her eyes, I don't like how they stamped. They didn't stamp all the way very well. So I've got my Copic multi-liner and it's the 0.5 pen, and I'm just going to fill the color over the pupil again so that it's black. And that's just me. I just like it to be colored all the way in, and I must not have put my marker, or my ink pad must need to be refilled or something because it didn't stamp it very clear. So, and she also has a couple little white spots in there, so I'm going to leave those. And then for her eyes, we're going to use YG67 and YG61. I'm going to start with YG67. I'm going to add just a little bit of dark on both sides of her eye. And then I'm going to go with 61, and I'm going to touch right on the edge of that, 67. And if you just fill it all the way in, that's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and go do it again. So I'm going to grab 67. And then 61. And I'm trying not to color that little white dot she has there at the bottom of her eye. But if you do, you can go in with your colorless blender and erase that. So that looks pretty good like that. And then I want to add a little bit of shadows on the edges of her eyes too. So I'm going to take BV31 and I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow right here and right in the corner. And same for this side. And then for her lips, we're going to use R24, R20, and R30. I'm going to start with R24. And I want them to be darkest right next to the seam of her lip. And right on the edges. Maybe the bottom of this one a little bit. And I'm going to take R20. And I'm going to brush up onto this top lip. And I'm going to lightly go over this bottom lip. Fill that in a little bit. And then I'm going to take R30 and fill in this top lip the rest of the way. So it looks like it's kind of poking out and it's lighter there at the top. And then later when I get done, I'll take my Sharpie pen or a white paint pen and put a little white dot on her lips right here. Alright, so now we're going to go color her outfit. And so for that, I'm going to grab my piece of paper. And I'm going to pull maybe some orange onto my little outfit. So I've picked this little flower right here. Or actually the edge of the paper has this great orange strip right here. So I'm going to use that. And when I pick my colors, I grab my Copic color sheet and I've colored all the colors on there. And I take my piece of paper and I lay it down next to the oranges or whatever color I'm looking at until I find a color that I think matches pretty good. And so for this one, I'm going to say that this YR14 matches pretty good. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. I'm trying not to get my markers all over the place here. Okay, so I've got my YR14, which is right here. And see how close it is to this paper? That's pretty close. So I'm going to use that. And then to make it lighter, I'm going to use the YR12. And then to go even lighter, I'm going to use YR01, which is down here. But it still looks close to this paper color. So that's how I pick my colors for my paper. And so let's color her part of her oranges here. Put the paper back over here. Okay, so for orange, I'm going to start by coloring her arrow on her shirt. So I'm going to start with YR14 first, and I'm going to lay down again where I want it to be darkest. So I'm going to have it where it curves around the back of her shirt and along the bottom of this arrow, like that. And then I'm going to do her cuffs too. So let's go ahead and get right next to the edge of the cuff. And let's do this side. Lightly brush that away. I'm going to do the bottom side of the cuff, I think, too, just because it's going to be darker down at the bottom there. Okay, and then I'm going to grab YR12. And you're just going to brush on top of the 14 and out as far as you want it to go. So on this one, I'm just going to leave the edges of the cuff white. And then I'm going to grab YR01. And I'm trying not to color her shirt because it's going to be a lighter color, and so I don't want to have to be erasing that. So I'm trying to be really careful. But like that. And then I would go over it a second time, so I'm going to grab YR14 again. Because I want to darken it up just a little bit more. Give it a little bit more contrast. And then I'm going to go with YR12. And then YR01. Just to leave that edge white, a little bit whiter. So there, that looks pretty good. So let's see, where else do I want to put some orange? Let's do some orange down here on her shoe. So I'm going to make, so this is her shoe. I'm going to say she's got on those little slipper shoes, and this is her sock. So we're not going to color that. So I'm going to go ahead with my YR14, and I'm going to add where I want it to be darkest. So I'm going to go right along the edge of this shoe, like that. And maybe right along the edge this side. And then I want this shoe to be dark where it touches the other shoe and along the bottom here. Right up here like that. And then let's make the sole here where it curves around. Give that a little bit of darker. Same where it's touching the shoe. Like that. And then get this side over here too. And then we're going to grab YR12 and fill a little bit of that space in. I think I'll go right along the top here too. But leave a little shiny spot here in the middle that we can fill in with our lightest color. And it is personal preference. If you wanted to color it all the way in, you could. I'm going to leave this side white because it looks like it's kind of tipped up there a little bit. So the sun would maybe be shining, or the light would be shining down on that. And then we'll go with YR01. And I'm going to fill that in. And I'm brushing right over the edge of that line and softening it. And I'm going to go over it again so I'm not worried that it's not all the way blended. Because like the shirt, I want to darken it up just a little bit. So I'm going to go again with my YR14. And go right back over those shaded areas that I laid down the first time. I just want it to be darker, a little bit darker. I want my girl to really stand out on my paper. And then I'll go with YR12. And then again YR01. Just filling that in. It's her shoes. And then it looks like I also did, she's got a couple of little skirts on here, or her shirt's maybe sticking out with multiple layers. So she's got this great one here with the little stripes on it. I'm going to color a few of those stripes in with the orange. So I'm going to go with YR14 up here at the top. And maybe I'll skip that one. And skip that one and then go over here to the edge. And then I think I'll also do her hat just a little bit. So I'm going to go, let's do this one. And this pom-pom. So I'm going to get the bottom of the pom-pom. And then I'm going to go with YR12. And add just a little bit so I have enough room for my one on the top there. And go down here and get our stripes. So this stripe I'm going to fill the rest of the way in because there's not much room left. I'll add just a little bit more to each of these so I can put just the lightest color on there. And for that we're going to grab YR01. And I'm going to fill those the rest of the way in. And then for her hat we're going to get the rest of this stripe. And the pom-pom. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's go do maybe some blue. Alright, so again, to pick another color from my paper, I went and got my paper, and I wanted to add a little bit of this blue in there. So I got my little color chart, and I pulled it over here until I found a color that was pretty close. And I think this BG72 is really close. So I'm going to use BG75, 72, and BG70 to add some blue to my shirt, or to my outfit. Let's stick that over here. And I'm going to start with BG75, and I'm going to, let's color this skirt here and her socks this blue. So I'm going to go, there's some great little pleats on here, so for each one of these little pleats I'm going to go along the bottom and up the pleat. So along the bottom, up the pleat, and this one I'm going to make it roll, nope, I'm going to do one more. So across the pleat and up the little seam. And this one I'm going to make say that the pleat's going to switch the other direction. So I'm going to go down this side and along the bottom, all the way across like that. And then I'm going to go BG72. And I'm just going to brush a little bit on top of my 75. Add just a little bit more color. I'm going to get the bottom and go up each one's at the inside seams of that one, because I didn't color it the last time. Like that. And then when you get to 70, that's a pretty big jump from 72 to 70, so I'm going to do the tip-to-tip method, and I've refilled my 72 so it was really wet before I started. So I'm going to grab my 72, which is this one, and then I have my 70 over here, and I'm just going to brush the end of my 70 onto 72 and pick some up there on the end, and you can see just a little bit. And then I'm going to use that to color on top of my 72 here. And then I'm going to pull it up to the top. And then as you run out of ink, you're going to just brush back over the top of your marker and add some more. But it works really good if your marker is really wet. You can also, if you're worried about your markers getting stained, or I've never seen that happen, but if you're worried about that, you can color it onto an acrylic block or a piece of plastic or the wrapper from the the stamp too. You can just color your darkest color on there and then pick it up off of the paper from that. But I've never had a problem with it staining my markers or anything like that. Brush right over the top of that again and lighten that line just a little bit. So see how easy that was? So let's go do her socks. And I'm going to start with BG75. And I'm going to say her sock is going to be darkest this side because it's leaning towards the floor. And she's got a little bit poking out right there. I'm going to color that in. And I'm going to go right down here and along this top of her shoe. And then for this side, I'm going to say this side is darkest. And I'm going to get right here and down the inside. Maybe just a little bit underneath of her sock where it rolls over just a little bit. And then we're going to get 72. I'm going to brush just on top of that and just a little bit up. Just adding a little bit of color. So I want to leave room for my lightest color there. Okay, and again, because it's such a big jump, I'm going to grab my 72 and then do 70. And I'm just going to brush right on top with my pen and then add that color to her sock. Nicely fill that in. I'll get this little patch right over here. And I think I'll brush down here on this one just a little bit just so I can blend that line just a little bit more. See how nice those look? Those look pretty good. So let's go up here also and do a couple of lines on her hat. Add some blue to that. So again, I'm going to go back to BG75 and I'm going to give this one some blue and this one right up here at the top. And then I'm going to grab the 72. Brush a little bit of that on there. And then I'll do the tip to tip to fill in the rest. Fill in just that little dab right there. And if you have a little bit, like my pen has a little bit left over on the pen, I'm just going to rub that right onto a piece of paper here on the side and get rid of that so that it's all cleared off of there. Alright, so let's go do the rest of the skirt down here. Alright, so pulling some red from my paper, I'm going to use R17 and R14, and I'm going to color her leggings in. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of R17 to those. So I'm going to go and use the inside and just underneath of her skirt of her leggings. And then I'm going to grab R14 and fill that in. And this will pick up another color from our paper that I've pulled that I'm going to be using to, that paper line I'm going to be using to make my card. And I'm going to darken my shadows up, so I'm going to go back over with R17. And then I also think I'll do this skirt up here. So I'm going to go right underneath where her shirt looks like it's coming out. And then I'll grab the 14. And because I added a little bit down here in her leggings, I'm going to go over that just again, just to soften that line just a little bit. And then come up here and fill in the rest of her little skirt area. Okay, so for the shirt, I wanted it to be like a cream color, so we're going to use E41, E40, and the colorless blender. And so I'm going to start with E41, and I'm going to add just where I want it to be shadowed. So right here at the top of her shirt, she's got a couple of little lines that looks like there's a wrinkle in the cuff. So I'm going to get right underneath that, and then I'm going to go down the inside of her sleeve and along the cuff, and for this side. And then I'm going to say that maybe the light's coming from a little bit from over here, so I'm going to do the inside of this line on her shirt and right along the bottom. And then I'm going to grab these couple of little stripes that were left on her hat. So I'm going to color just a little bit there on that. And then I'm going to grab E40, and I'm going to brush right over the top and add just a little bit of color to that. And then I'm going to go down here to her shirt and go right over those lines I just laid down and make them just a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to grab my colorless blender. I'm going to go back here and do the hat first, and I'm going to brush from the outside in. So from this shirt, I'm going to brush from the outside of her shirt into my E40. Same for this side. And that will soften that edge of that line just a little bit, but still make it look like there's a shadow on her shirt. So that it's not all the way, it's not white completely. It's got a little bit of definition in there. See how cute that looks? Alright, so I think I'm going to go down here and do the ground before I do these balloons, because one of them's red and I'm afraid I'm going to touch it, so I'm going to do the outline in the ground first. So for my ground, I'm going to use E42 and E40, or sorry, E42 and E41. I'm going to start with E42, and I don't want my ground to just stop right underneath the girl. So I'm going to go up here and just pick a space where you want the ground to start, and just pull away from her shoes with her E42. Go around this side. I'm going to turn it so I can flick away from me a little bit better. And you can go as far out or as close as you want. And I think I'll do just to see, I try to keep it so that the line on this side maybe matches up with this side a little bit, but I think I'm going to make this side just a little bit further out. And then I'm going to grab 41 and go just past that line, and I want to brush out past where my 42 stopped. And I'm going to turn it so I can flick away a little bit better. And again, you're going to make it go out as far as you want, but I think that I'll leave mine like that, but I think I'll go over this line just a little bit more because it's looking kind of stark. And I might actually add a little bit more of my 42 next to her, just a little bit. And you just got to look at your image and say, what do I like? Like that, and I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to outline my image with C0, and I'm just going to do that by going all the way around. So I'm going to fill in the space between her legs here, and then I'm going to come down to my ground, and then I'm going to come up, and be careful next to that red. I'm going to go all the way around my image and just give it an outline so it looks like she's not, once it dries, it'll look like she's not just standing. Give it a little bit more definition. Okay, and I want to get these little strings too, so I'm going to go ahead and go down each of those, clear to the bottom, and we'll go up here around these balloons. But I'm going to color one of these balloons red, and it never fails. I end up touching that red, and I end up getting it in the middle of everything else. So it's easier for me to just do the outlining before I get to the red part. And it could be easier for you too if you like to do it, if you're messy like me, to do the outlining first. That saves you touching things you don't want it to run into. Because you get that red out there and it doesn't tend to go away very well. Go down here around her hand. And down, back down to the ground. Like that. And you can see just a little bit right here, but once it dries you'll barely be able to see that. So for our balloons, I'm going to color one green and one red to match the paper. And for the green balloon, I'm going to use YG 63 and 61. And for the red balloon, I'm going to use R17, 14, and 12. So I'm going to start with the green one, which is, I'm going to color this first one green. So I'm going to grab YG 63. And I want this side of my balloon to be darkest and it to be lighter up here at the top-ish. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom and I'm just going to flick away from me and up onto the balloon. And you got to be careful as you get closer to her face. And up here by her ear, and her hair. I think I'll pull that up just a little bit more. And then we want to do just a little bit up here at the top too. Okay, and then I'm going to grab 63 or 61. And I'm going to start by on the top of my 63 and just brush. Oops, be careful going around that pigtail. I don't want her to have green hair. And just lightly brush over that line. Okay, and I'm going to leave it white just there at the top. I'm going to go back to my 63. And I'm just going to brush one more layer on here. Maybe go around this side of her little ponytail a little bit. Like that. And then I'm going to grab 61 and brush over that edge. And I'm going to brush. Be careful up here at the top. Okay, and I still got a little bit of a line right here on my balloon. So I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to brush it this way. What that does is that pushes the color back. And it will soften your line. Maybe a little bit right here. There, that looks pretty good. It's darker down here at the bottom and it's lighter up here at the top. So let's go ahead and do the red balloon next. So let's start with R17. And so I want it to be, oh, whoops, I forgot to do the little thing down here. So let's do the darkest color, which is 63 on this part. And I'm going to make this inside part lighter with 61. Okay, now the red balloon. So R17. So again, I want my balloon to be darkest down here at the bottom. So let's just add a little bit. Be careful, try not to get onto that green balloon. Whoops, and I did. Well, it's just going to have to stay there for now. So R14's next. Brush over the top of your 17. Add some 14. And then I'm going to grab R12. And see how big of a jump that was? That's going to need some tip to tip, I think. So let's do R17 again. Oops. I'm just destined to get that red on that green. And then R14. And then I'm going to do tip to tip to get from this really dark red to this lighter red. So I'm going to grab my R12 and I'm going to brush on top of my R14. Pick some of that up and color right on the edge of that line. Pick more up as you go. See how that's transitioning out here. Let's do a little bit more. There, that looks much better. Like that. So it's got a nice shiny spot there at the top. And let's go and do the little bottom here. So let's do R17 on the bottom. And then I'm going to make the inside really light with R12. There, that is a balloon, but I like how it's shiny up here at the top, so it looks like the light's coming down on top of that. So that is our girl, so let's add some stuff to make her sparkly. Okay, so let's add some sparkle to our girl. So I'm going to start by doing, I've got my Sharpie white paint pen, and I'm going to add a little dot to her lips. Let's zoom in here. And I'm just going to, and I already shook it up, I'm just going to add a little dot quickly to her little cheek there, or to her little lip. And you could too, if you wanted to, if you colored in this little dot up here in her eye, you could do that, or these dots up here, you could add some white to that. But I'm going to leave them like that. And then I'm going to take some Stardust Stickles and add it to her hat. So I think I'll do that to the blue stripe. Whoops. That was a lot. Blue stripe. And maybe this pom-pom. Wipe some of that over here a little bit. That made a big old blob on there. That's going to be very sparkly. And then I also got some new, whoops, wrong way. Some of this Smooches Glitz in the store here lately, and so I wanted to try it. So I'm going to put some of that onto the balloons. And I've got Gold Rush, and this one is called Starlight, so silver. And I already shook them up, and you want to shake them really good so all the glitter comes off the bottom of the bottle. And so let's start with the silver one. And it comes in this great little fingernail polish bottle, and you pull it out, and I always wipe mine the back side because I'm going to use, because I paint this way, so I'm going to use the front side. And I'm going to paint some of this onto the silver onto the green balloon. So I'm just going to wipe it right on there. And it adds a few little sparkles. I'm going to get some more because that wasn't very much. And go right up here. Add some sparkles around this side of her hair. And this is a new bottle, so I'm sure if you, after you've used it a few times and some of the liquid stuff is down a little bit more, it shakes a lot easier, and it'll be a lot easier to get more sparkles out. So that just added a little bit of silver sparkles on there. I don't know if you can see those. Oh, see? Just a little bit. And after it dries, you won't see anything but the little sparkles. And let's add some gold to the red balloon. Let me shake it up real quick. Okay, so grab some of that. And then just go right along the edge. And it goes on just like fingernail polish. You just wipe it right on there. Get a little bit more. Oh, there we got a lot of sparkles in that batch. I think it just depends on how much sparkles you get as to where you're, how much shaking you do, or how much is, which way your brush is pointed in the bottle, or I don't know. But sometimes I get a lot, sometimes I get a little bit. So there's some gold on there. I see that. See, it added some sparkles on there, and then after it's dry, it looks shiny now that it's wet, but after it dries, it'll just be the gold little sparkles and the silver little sparkles. So let's zoom out so you can see the girl. So that is Ellie's birthday, and she's going to be in the store. You can look under Ellie's birthday in the search engine to see if it's still there if you're watching this later on. But here is the finished card. And it says, "Happy birthday." It's got some ribbon on there. And this is all that Echo Park For the Record 2 tailored collection. And as you see, I didn't use any of that paper that I pulled to pick colors from. It just didn't end up on my page, but I used a bunch of papers from the line to make my card. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. See you next time.